Let's talk about oxidative cleavage or ozonolysis. So in this reaction, we are going to use ozone, which has the molecular formula of O3, to perform the reaction. So ozone is formed in the upper atmosphere where oxygen gas is bombarded by UV light. So the ozone layer in the atmosphere serves as a shield to protect us from UV light. Now, this ozone molecule can also be used in the lab and react with pi bonds to form new molecules. So ozone is a charged molecule with 3 oxygens. One of the oxygen, the middle one, is positively charged. This oxygen is negatively charged, and one of them is neutral in one of the resonance structures. Now we can draw the second resonance structure for ozone molecule. This lone pair is allylic to double bond, so we can push the lone pair to form a double bond here, and also push the pi bond to form a lone pair. So basically in the second resonance structure, again the middle oxygen is positively charged. Now we move the negative charge between oxygen 1 and oxygen 3 in both resonance structures. Now we are first going to look at the ozonolysis process in alkenes. So in this process, we are going to use ozone molecule in the first step. So imagine that we have this alkene. So in the first step, we are using the ozone molecule, and in the second step, we are going to use dimethyl sulfide. So this is dimethyl sulfide, and here is the structure of dimethyl sulfide. So we have 2 methyl groups connected to sulfur atom. Now during this process, what's happening? We are breaking the double bond, and we are adding a carbonyl group in both sides. So basically, after breaking the double bond, so the double bond is broken right here. I just made it in 2 pieces, and we are gonna add carbonyl. So I need to add oxygens to form carbonyl. CO double bond is carbonyl. So I can redraw these products in a better form. So I made 2 products in this reaction. Now let's look at the mechanism for this reaction. So we have our alkene. This is the ozone molecule. So the mechanism for this reaction is concerted, meaning that the oxygen with electron density is gonna attack the carbon in one side of the double bond. It doesn't matter which one, and that forces the electrons in the pi bond to move over this oxygen, and this pushes the electrons in the pi bond between 2 oxygens to move over this oxygen, which has a positive charge. And the outcome of this electron pushing process would be formation of ozonide molecule. So this is the ozonide, better say complex. Okay, so this oxygen is connected to this carbon, and it has 2 methyl groups attached. Then the pi bond moved over the oxygen to form a bond with oxygen, so that becomes a single bond, and this carbon is connected to the methyl and ethyl, and then the pi bond between two oxygens moved over the positively charged oxygen to make it neutral. Now we call this complex ozonide complex. So ozonide is pretty unstable and reactive because we have three electronegative oxygens next to one another. So this structure will rearrange to become more stable. So once again, we have electron pushing occur all in one step. So what's happening here? The electrons on this oxygen will move over to form a double bond. Now this carbon would get more than octet during this process, therefore this single bond will break and move here to form a double bond between this carbon and oxygen. Now again, oxygen would get more than octet, so the single bond between two oxygens will break and move over this oxygen. So we are gonna form two products here. So the single bond here will break to form a double bond. So we are gonna form this structure. This carbon is connected to the methyl and ethyl, which is right here. This is methyl, and here is ethyl. And the bonding electrons are moving over oxygen, so this oxygen would get the negative charge. So we are going to form a negatively charged oxygen, which is connected to the second oxygen, and the lone pair here is moved to form a double bond. So we have one lone pair left and one moved to form a double bond, and this carbon is also connected to two methyl groups. So again, this oxygen is positively charged. So this type of compounds where we have the negative and positive charge on two atoms in a single molecule is called zwitterion. So this is a neutral compound because the negative and positive charge will cancel out each other. However, this species is again unstable, but there is a way that it can become more stable. So what we see is that this lone pair on oxygen will attack the carbonyl, the carbon of carbonyl. We know that this carbon is an electrophilic center, so the lone pair will attack the electrophilic carbon. So the lone pair will attack the electrophilic carbon. Now these forces the pi bonds, pi electrons, move over and attack this electrophilic center, which pushes the pi electrons over the positively charged oxygen. So the outcome of this process would be formation of the second ozonide. So we are gonna form another ozonide. Okay, so this oxygen attacks the carbonyl right here. This is that oxygen attacks the carbonyl, and this carbon is connected to methyl and ethyl right here, which is connected to the oxygen, and then the pi bond will form a bond between oxygen and this electrophilic carbon, which is connected to two methyls. There is a bond between this carbon and oxygen, and we still have a bond between two oxygens. So this ozonide is more stable because we don't have three electronegative oxygens right beside each other anymore. So this happens in the solution to make the more stable ozonide. This is a type of rearrangement that's happening in this molecule. So this ozonide is more stable. And this is unstable. Now in the next step, we are going to add dimethyl sulfide. So up to here, we were just talking about the first step of this reaction. Now in the second step, we are going to add dimethyl sulfide. So the sulfur will react with one of these oxygens because again they are electronegative and they don't want to be right beside each other. Therefore, sulfur will attack one of the oxygens and opens up the ring. So we are going to form a very large complex. So there is a bond between sulfur and this oxygen. Now this oxygen is connected to the carbon, which has a methyl and ethyl group attached. And this is connected to the oxygen. So this oxygen is connected to the carbon that has two methyl groups attached. And this carbon is connected to the oxygen, which has negative charge because we are moving this lone pair on this oxygen. Okay. Let's draw all the lone pairs, and sulfur will get the positive charge. Now in order to make the products, another rearrangement should happen. So the lone pair will move here to make a double bond. These bonding electrons will move here to make another double bond, and these bonding electrons will move over oxygen. So we are going to form 3 products. So this is basically a resonance structure of DMSO, dimethyl sulfoxide. We used that before in SN2 mechanism. So we used dimethyl sulfide and we converted that to DMSO. Now, by moving the lone pair over here to make a double bond, we are forming this ketone. Moving the bonding electrons over here will form the second ketone. Now let's look at a couple of examples. So we have this structure. In the first step we add ozone, and second one we are adding dimethyl sulfide. So we want to draw the products for this reaction. Now to draw the products, it's pretty easy. So what you need to do, you need to break the bond, the double bond. So we are going to form 2 products here. So the bond is broken, right? And then we are adding oxygens in each side to form ketone. Now we know that we have 2 hydrogens here. So in order to draw them in a better way, we are going to form this aldehyde and formaldehyde as well. So we are going to form two products in this reaction. Now let's look at another example. Okay, so again, we need to break the double bond, and instead we are going to add oxygen. Okay, so don't forget we have a methyl group connected here, and we are going to add two oxygens. Now to draw the structure in a more pretty way, so I suggest you to number all the carbons. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. So we are gonna have a chain of 7 carbons. Okay, 1, 2, 6, and 7. Now to carbon number 2, we have CO double bond. Okay, and to carbon number 7, we also have CO double bond. Okay, so one side is a ketone and one side is an aldehyde. Now let's look at ozonolysis in alkynes. So we are going to use ozone molecule in the first step, similar to alkenes. However, in the second step, we are going to add water instead of dimethyl sulfide. And the products for alkynes ozonolysis will be formation of carboxylic acids. So let's look at this example. Okay, so the second step, we are gonna add water. Now again, it's the same process. We are gonna break the triple bond, and in each side, after breaking, we are gonna add carboxylic acid. So we have 1, 2, 3 carbons in the left side. This is 1, 2, 3 carbons, and then we are gonna add carboxylic acid functional group. Okay, so in the right side we have 2 carbons. This is 1, 2, and then we are gonna add carboxylic acid functional group. So we formed 2 products in this reaction. Now let's look at another example. Okay, so again we are adding ozone and water in the second step. So again, it's the same process. We are cleaving the triple bond. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 carbons here. Four carbons, and then we are gonna add carboxylic acid functional group. And then we have 1, 2, 3. This is 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we are gonna add carboxylic acid functional group. So again, we are forming 2 products in this reaction. Now, what if we have a terminal alkyne? So let's look at this example. Okay, this is a terminal alkyne. So again, it's the same process. We are cleaving the triple bond. Now in the left side, we have 3 carbons. Okay, and then we are gonna add carboxylic acid functional group. Now in the right side, we only have 1 carbon, and the best product that can be formed here is carbon dioxide. So whenever we have a terminal alkyne, one of the product should be carbon dioxide and the other one would be a carboxylic acid.